The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, you'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello folks, welcome back to Solihull again. It's the first time I've been here since summer last year, and I'm sure you all remember that mammoth walk I did around the first 5 episodes in this series. Well, the next 5 aren't going to be anything quite like that. They're certainly less urban, they're more villagey. Now, this one I've brought you to today actually involves a few small hamlets which have all sort of been glued together actually. I'm in a place called Earlswood here, and as you can see behind me we have Earlswood railway station. This is one of the 2 railway stations you can find in the parish of Tidbury Green. Tidbury Green, Stephen Tybear's Green. Welcome back to Solihull again everyone. Time for another run in this West Midlands borough. This time we're in the southwestern corner close to places like Earlswood and Dickens Heath, as well as the Warwickshire border. This is Tidbury Green. It's a small parish of lanes, farms and newer housing with around 1,100 residents. It all sits within easy reach of Birmingham, yet it's still distinctly rural. The name Tidbury Green is thought to come from Stephen Tybears, or Tybrae, a medieval benefactor. He granted a piece of land and a building in Solihull for local use, and his surname seems to have settled onto the nearby green landscape. Long before he was here, ice shaped this ground. A great sheet of the cold frozen stuff from the northwest left a heavy spread of boulder clay over this area. In the Domesday Book, the wider area appears under the manor of Ulverley. It was a thinly populated estate of woodland and meadow and was held by a woman called Christina from the king. It had villagers, a priest and slaves working the soil and tending stock. Through the Middle Ages, the manor of Ulverley passed to the de Limesey family and then by marriage to the Odingsells. Later, what became Tidbury Green Farm lay within this countryside of estates, tenanted farms and small holdings. Today, the place is best summed up by Tidbury Green Farm and its listed buildings near Rumbush Lane. The farmhouse, the barn, the stables, the cowhouse and the pigsties form a tight, historic group. In the 1700s and 1800s, the Roberts family held Tidbury Green Farm, later passing it to Henry Walker Aylesbury. After his death in 1918, the estate was sold off. Later decades brought a strong vegetable growers association and many modern households. Driving the lanes around here, you pass other historic spots like Little Clebury Farms barn and its stables, Fulford Hall, Manor Farm Cottage and a granary near Bragg's Farm. When you add in the much newer housing that's come along recently, you have quite the eclectic mix. There are no famous legends written into national folklore here, but local talk has its own flavour. Tidbury sits on the highest ground in Solihull, where snow lingers longer in winter. Gardeners often joke about their bent spades in the tough boulder clay as a result. So, Tidbury Green brings together what was ancient ice ground, a Domesday manor, medieval landowners, working farms, and later small holdings. It feels like a bit of land where the fields still guide the eyes, but in and around them are much newer dwellings.
Hey everybody, it's Amelia. So today in Tidbury Green, I've got a nice batch of landmarks to tell you about, including the 2 railway stations, the church and an old golf club. It should be a good one, so I'll see you shortly.
Okay, so we've driven to our start point here at Earlswood Station then. So as I said in the intro, there are 2 stations within Tidbury Green. This one's the one to the south. We'll see the one to the north at the end of this episode. But let's get started with this, shall we?
There are 2 railway stations within the boundaries of Tidbury Green. One lies to the north of the village, and the other lies to the south. This is the latter. Welcome to Earlswood Railway Station, which stands right on the borderline between Solihull and Warwickshire. The platforms even cross that border, which makes the station a bit unusual. This first opened in 1908 under the name Earlswood Lakes, and it kept that name until it was changed to just simply Earlswood in 1974. The station sits close to Earlswood Lakes, hence the earlier title. In its early years, the station had Great Western Railway buildings and a signal box at the southern end. Steam trains sometimes needed help here on the uphill line from Stratford, so a banker engine would push from behind and then return for the next train. The old station master's house and the row of GWR homes still stand beside the line today. The modern station is run by West Midlands Trains and remains an active stop for local travel. Trains run through en route between Birmingham and Cheltenham. It has some pretty basic facilities. People often alight here to get to Tidbury Green, but the village is quite a walk away. Otherwise, it sits close to Earlswood Garden Centre and some nice paths which encircle Earlswood Lakes.
You may have heard an announcement in the background there of one of those shots. There's no trains from this station today because there's some industrial strike action taking place, and so it's pretty much dead. I've got the station to myself here, although I'm not quite alone because, as you can see, another William Shakespeare overlooks this station, and that's because the line here goes by the name of the Shakespeare line. It's also called the Snow Hill line as well. It's got 2 names.
Earlswood Methodist Church sits on Wood Lane, again very close to the edge of Tidbury Green. It's just up the road from the railway station and the route of an old canal. Keep that canal in mind because we'll be seeing it later in the week. The church has been part of Methodist life in the Solihull area for a long time. It grew as the nearby villages grew, and by nearby villages I mean Tidbury Green, Dickens Heath and Earlswood. It's never short of patrons either. Earlswood Lakes, the railway line, and the paths through the woods brought people into the area, and the church became a place where they could meet for worship and learn about faith. They still do today. The church holds regular worship events and welcomes anyone who wants to visit. One of the best known events is a summer fete, which brings people together for a simple day of fun.
So just behind this Methodist church, you can see there we've got a field. That is the Woodbourne Sports Club, which is, I think, also just within Tidbury Green's boundaries. Not totally sure, but we are right on the border here, so it might not. Anyway, that's by the by. We haven't seen anything that's sort of like a cohesive village yet, have we? We've seen a station and we've seen a church, and that's pretty much it, and they're sort of in the middle of nowhere. Well, now we're going to drive into Tidbury Green itself, where it starts to get a bit more villagey, but it's not the kind of place you really want to be walking around, and you'll see why in a moment. So now we're driving into and mostly through Tidbury Green. You see, a lot of this place is new or newish, and as such there's not really a lot in the way of landmarks here. It's a small village, and for most of its past, it was a place full of farms and quiet rural lanes. Before the 1930s, the area was made up of fields, farm buildings, and crossroads that linked the southernmost reaches of Birmingham with Warwickshire. That's a common theme throughout the first few villages we'll be covering this week. One of the most important facts about Tidbury Green is its height. The village reaches 505 feet or 154 metres above sea level, which makes it the highest point in the whole borough of Solihull. The parish council even have a joke about it, saying that the rest of Solihull look up to us. Because of the height, snow stays on the ground for longer than the places around it in the winter. When the rest of Solihull has turned green again, Tidbury Green can still have white patches on the fields and the roofs. There's a reason for the elevation out here. The ground under Tidbury Green was formed long ago by a huge ice sheet that once covered the area. As the ice melted, it left behind boulder clay, which is a tough mix of stones, clay and big lumps of rock. We've met the stuff before in other areas. Gardeners in this village still find this hard layer of earth when they're digging. Under the clay lies Kuiper Marl, a reddish rock that forms the deeper base of the land. They have their own jokes about bent spades, and I imagine they're not too far from the truth. For a long time, the centre of this area was Tidbury Green Farm, which appears in records from the 1700s and 1800s. It was once owned by Henry Walker Aylesbury and was sold after his death in 1918. The farm buildings near Rumbush Lane are now Grade 2 listed. Today, Tidbury Green is still known for all of these things, but its height remains the most unusual feature. It's the thing that makes long winters last just a little longer here than anywhere else in Solihull. I imagine that's great for the kids though. So as you can tell, it's very modern, and it's not really a nucleated village in the sort of traditional sense, is it? It's kind of lanes everywhere and houses tucked behind big trees and stuff like that. Certainly not the kind of village that I enjoy walking around. And there isn't really a village centre either. You've got this crossroads, but you're through that in a flash. On this crossroads though, there is one thing that Tidbury Green has, and that's a garage. We'll talk a bit about that because it's one of the things it does actually possess. There's a few other things as well which are all down Dickens Heath Road. We'll check those out too. So we do have a short walk to undertake here, but it's not going to be anything special. Most of the main landmarks here are all clustered in the northeastern part of the village, and among them is Tidbury Green Garage on Lowbrook Lane. The garage is easy to find because it stands close to a crossroads. This is the home of Steve Lane Cars, a motor business that's been running for over 25 years. It was first set up in 1998. It was originally called Ian Farrell Car Sales Limited, but the name changed in 2002. The garage sells new and used cars, and it also deals in light motor vehicles. The garage offers part exchange, vehicle sourcing and valeting. These are details which come directly from the company's own information. Now we have the village school. This originally opened in 1931 and became an important place for local children. It nearly closed in the early 1980s, but the local people fought to keep it open. A new school building, the one you can see here, was completed in 1995. Standing on Dickens Heath Road, it teaches children from age 2 to age 11, and it also has its own nursery classes on site. The school is listed as a mixed primary with space for around 490 pupils, according to official government records. The school's website explains that it runs as a two-form entry school, meaning each year group has 2 classes. This school has won awards in recent years, such as the Little Wandle Champion School in 2023, an Eco School Award in 2024, and a Reading for Pleasure Gold Award, also in 2024. Tidbury Green Village Hall stands next to the school, and the two share the same car park. It was built in 1996, is centrally heated, and is constantly kept in a good condition. Inside, the main room can be used as one large space or split into 2 smaller rooms using an acoustic divider. Each room has its own entrance from a shared lobby, which makes it easy for different groups to use the building at the same time. The hall also has a kitchen with an electric stove, an oven, a fridge, a sink, a water boiler, and a serving hatch. Tidbury Green Village Hall is therefore a straightforward, well-documented building. Run through the parish council, it's used for local events with a layout that can change to suit different needs. It's everything your typical modern village hall should be. that's effectively all there is to the village itself, you know. There's not really much more apart from houses, and you've seen most of those already by driving around them. We're not finished with the parish yet though, because you remember there are 2 railway stations in this one. We need to see the other one yet. We also need to see what remains these days of a golf club. It's not a golf club anymore. It's just to the north of Tidbury Green, and that's where we're going next.
North of the village now, we're at the former Tidbury Green Golf Course. This opened in 1994 and first used the name White Lakes Golf Club. It later became Tidbury Green Golf Club and sat on a 52-acre site just south of Solihull. The course was designed by Derek Stevenson and had 2 sets of holes. One was a 9-hole main course and the other was a 9-hole pitch course. This meant players had a choice here. They could choose a long round or a short round, depending on their preference. The site also had a driving range and a lake that was used for fishing, so people could enjoy a lot more than just golf when they visited. The course once had a membership of around 500 people, so it was certainly popular. It also ran a pay-and-play system, and fees were low. You could pay £9 for 18 holes and £6 for 9 holes. All of this makes it a little surprising that it was closed down. That happened in 2017, when it was in a poor shape. Reviews at the time spoke about problems with upkeep and service. That same year, it was confirmed that the course's land could be used for new homes.
Right, now that we've come up the road again, we found our way to St John's Church, which is right here. That's next.
Tidbury Green's main church is dedicated to St John the Divine. It stands close to the junction of Tilehouse Lane and Hounsfield Lane, away from the main cluster of the village. It was founded in 1925 and was built as a kind of modern chapel of ease to Shirley. The church was given its legal name by the church commissioners and has been part of the Birmingham diocese since it first opened. The building has a modern exterior and as such has never been listed as a heritage site. The church has a simple layout inside. Today, St John the Divine works closely with St James the Great in Shirley. Both form part of the same parish group, and they share events and support each other. The parish office is actually based in Shirley, even though this building is within Tidbury Green. Even though the church is small, it does play a key part in the life of Tidbury Green. Along with the Methodist Church at Earlswood, it offers a place where people can sit, think, pray and take part in worship, without having to travel to Shirley.
And directly over the road from St John's Church, you have a rugby club, Old Yardleyans Rugby Football Club. This is our home. They have seniors, girls, minis and juniors. Now, there's plenty of sports pitches in this part of Solihull. Most of them, though, are in the next parish over, which you'll see tomorrow, kind of in this direction. Well, that's where we're heading now anyway, because now it's time to see the other station.
Our last stop in Tidbury Green is the other station. This is Whitlock's End Railway Station, which opened on the 6th of June 1936 and was first called Whitlock's End Halt. The Halt name was dropped in 1968. The station was built by the Great Western Railway to serve the new homes in the area. Primarily, passengers who use this station are heading towards Birmingham or towards Stratford upon Avon. Some trains end their journey here, while others go the whole way to Stratford. All services are run by West Midlands trains. Over time, the platforms became too short and too low, so the whole station was rebuilt in 1999. That rebuild cost £800,000 and created the layout that passengers use today. Since then, another feature has been added to this. In 2010, something called a turnback was added, so that trains could start and finish their trips at Whitlock's End. Its creation helped ease congestion pressure at Shirley Station. The change, welcomed by Shirley, ended up bringing more people to Whitlock's End instead. As such, a year later, the car park was extended to meet the new demand, and now it's a park and ride. The station now has 119 parking spaces and 8 accessible spaces. It also has bicycle storage, public Wi-Fi, help points, and a sheltered waiting area.
Well, I'd imagine, seeing as this is a weekday, that this car park is normally full of cars, but of course there's no trains, so because of that it's pretty much empty at the moment. Now, we're not going far to get to our next parish. In fact, we're standing right on the border here between the two. Opposite the car park, you can see we have a couple of football pitches, and those will begin tomorrow's episode. Tidbury Green is not your average village. It's quite the place though. This is a village that grew slowly, shaped first by ice, then by centuries of farming families who worked the hard soils left behind when the retreating ice sheet disappeared. What you see today is a mix of older traces and the newer homes that now fill the lanes. Places like the school, the village hall and the former golf course show how the area changed in the last century. The height of this ground here definitely plays its part. The high land has defined Tidbury Green since the Ice Age, and in effect it's the ice and the snow and the reputation for winter that lingers longer after the rest of Solihull has thawed that really encapsulates the spirit of this village. I'll see you tomorrow.
On a high ridge where the cold winds play, Tidbury Green stands through each short day. Fields roll out wide under skies so clear, and frost bites deep when the nights draw near. This village stands tall on its crown of clay. Snow stays white while the rest melts away. Up on the height where the long drifts gleam, winter lingers longest over Tidbury Green. Farm roofs shine bright when dawn light breaks. Tracks crunch hard as the morning wakes. Birds skim low in the pale sunbeam, guarding the ridge like a watchful team. This village stands tall on its crown of clay. Snow stays white while the rest melts away. Up on the height where the long drifts gleam, winter lingers longest over Tidbury Green. When cold air sweeps in across the land, winter is longer than most would understand. Frost grips tight with a silver sheen, marking the rise where the fields stay clean. Snowflakes dance in a soft white stream, settling deep under soft sunbeams, and lanterns glow with a gentle gleam as sleigh bells ring in a winter theme. This village stands tall on its crown of clay. Snow stays white while the rest melts away. Up on the height where the long drifts gleam, winter lingers longest over Tidbury Green. Tidbury Green stands tall on its crown of clay. Snow stays white while the rest melts away. Up on the height where the long drifts gleam, winter lingers longest over Tidbury Green.
Hello folks, welcome back to Solihull once again. Now today we are actually going to go for a big long walk around the village, unlike what we did yesterday of course, which was more like driving through the village of Tidbury Green. Well, we're here on the border between Tidbury Green and today's parish, and you remember yesterday we saw at the very end a couple of football pitches right opposite the Park and Ride car park. It's those pitches you can see behind me right there. Now there are at least four football teams that play around here, this sort of area of Solihull. One of them is Shirley Town, and that's the ground you can see behind me there. This is the parish of Dickens Heath. Dickens Heath, Thomas Diken's rough open ground. Today in Solihull we're in Dickens Heath. Now this is another modern village about 3.5 miles southwest of Solihull town centre. It sits beside the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal and includes part of the older hamlet of Whitlock's End. The name Dickens Heath is thought to come from Thomas Dikens, a guy who's known to have lived in the district in 1524. The word heath points to the rough open ground that was once part of Solihull's common land. This landscape once formed part of the huge Forest of Arden, a mix of woodland, scrub and small clearings. Whitlock's End Farm, with its 17th century barn and traces of a moat, is just about the only remaining clue to the former medieval farmsteads out here. In the Domesday Book, Dickens Heath is not named. The area lay within the wider manor around Solihull, which was then a rural holding with woodland, ploughland and meadow. Later manorial surveys, such as that of 1632, begin to pick out Dickens Heath as 10 acres of common. Dickens Heath remained a small piece of common within Solihull Manor for years. Manorial records and surveys describe rights over this heath, while nearby farms and lanes linked it to Hockley Heath and other estates that managed its land, its labour and its rents. Now we have a very different place. Dickens Heath is very modern, and it has a planned village centre that was laid out from the late 1990s onwards, with a market square, garden squares and a very posh upmarket area beside the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal. The canal is definitely the defining feature here, with its canal-side flats at waterside heights. The village green, the school, the village hall and a nearby nature reserve are all worth a mention too. Because this is so modern, most people here worked as agricultural labourers on surrounding farms historically, but there were exceptions. In the 19th century, for example, the engineer and aluminium pioneer James Fern Webster lived at Whitlock's End. Today, residents are more varied, many commuting into Solihull and Birmingham. Local folklore is gentle rather than grand, but some older residents can recall tales of hidden ponds and boggy ground on the old heath that could trap unwary livestock on dark winter evenings. So in all, Dickens Heath brings together an ancient heathland, a canal corridor and a carefully planned modern centre. It's a place where the old patterns of land and water sit in harmony with the newer streets that define it today. Let's go walking.
Okay, everyone, here's what I've got for you today. Dickens Heath might be very residential, but there are still things I'm going to highlight, including 5 football clubs that are based at Whitlock's End. I'll also be all over the Stratford Canal. To begin proceedings here, we have no fewer than 5 football clubs to cover, all based around the Tilehouse Lane or Tithe Barn Lane areas. This first one is a shared facility between Shirley Town Football Club and Crusaders Women's Football Club. This pitch has been used for football since 1960, but Shirley Town are far older than that. They were founded in 1926 according to the sign outside. There have been several Shirley Town clubs over the years, but not much is known about the one that began in the 1920s. However, a Shirley team was founded in 1933 when George Featherstone set it up in Solihull. It entered the FA Cup from the 1935 season onwards, and its best run ended with a loss at Shrewsbury Town. They played at the Shirley Stadium, opposite the Plume of Feathers pub. That version of Shirley Town stopped playing during World War II and did not return after it ended. An amateur side later brought back the Shirley Town name. In 1974, that side merged with West Shirley Athletic and stepped into the Midland combination. This is where there's a bit of confusion, because it's not clear if it's that reformed side that use this ground today, but one assumes they do. As for Crusaders women, they definitely use the ground. They play in the West Midlands Regional Women's Football League.
Right, we've not gone very far to find the second football team, football ground I should say. It belongs to Leafield Athletic. It's literally just round the corner onto Tidbury Lane.
The third club to focus on here is Leafield Athletic. They began in 1997 and were to grow into one of the first clubs in the Midlands to focus fully on women and girls. The club has a reputation for encouraging girls to join from an early age and move through the teams as they grow. Over time, Leafield has seen players reach the highest levels of the women's game. Its best-known former player is Enia Luco, who passed all the way through its setup. That kind of progress can still be achieved today. Leafield have 11 youth teams and a first team that plays in the National League Division 1 Midlands. The club also hosts tournaments, with girls who come from places like Solihull, Haunchwood and Tamworth, all taking part. The current first team is led by manager Tash Tesgall. With its long record of youth football and its clear aim to support female players, Leafield Athletic continues to grow each season, while staying true to the work it began in 1997.
And once again, we've walked literally just a handful of yards to the next pitch. This one belongs to Wychell Wanderers.
Club number 4 is Wychell Wanderers. This one has a much longer history than Leafield Athletic. It began in 1968, when it first formed under the name Warwick Social. It played early matches at the county cricket ground, and by 1976 it carried the name Red Lion. A big change came in 1980, when the group took over the old Wychell Wanderers club and made that name its own. During the early 80s, the club worked hard to improve its base, building a clubhouse extension, and later opening a bar in 1984 to help raise money. Playing in something called the Coronation League, it ran several teams and had a busy ground. But things became harder in 2001, when it almost closed. A small group kept it alive though, and a couple of years later there was a major turning point. In 2003, it adopted a bunch of youth teams with the name Wharfdale Youth, bringing new life to the club and a full-on junior section. Now, after having moved to Tidbury Lane, the junior setup is still very active. The club now runs teams from under 7s right through to an over 35 side, playing in the Central Warwickshire League. The over 35 team has had some notable players too, including former Aston Villa captain Stilian Petrov.
I'll tell you what, it's nice and cool under these trees along Tidbury Lane. It's going to be a really warm day today, so I'm actually quite thankful for that. So, the last football ground belongs to Highgate United.
Highgate United Football Club began in 1948, when a group of former residents from St Vincent's Home for Working Boys formed a team in Birmingham. They first played at Billersley Common and later moved through local leagues, starting with the South Birmingham League. Later, they became members of the Worcestershire Combination in 1964. One of the most remembered moments in the club's past came in 1967. Highgate reached the quarter-finals of the FA Amateur Cup, but during the match against Enfield, a lightning strike hit the pitch. Several players fell to the ground, and defender Tony Olden later died in hospital. The match was replayed at Villa Park in front of more than 30,000 people. The 1970s brought great success. Highgate won the Midland Combination title in 1973 and again in 1974. The club later moved here to a ground called the Coppice on Tidbury Lane. It has a friendly feel, with a bar and space for fans to gather on match days. The team now plays in a red kit and competes in the Midland League Premier Division.
Okay, that's all of the football grounds covered, so now we need to drive down Tidbury Lane and actually into Dickens Heath, which looks a lot different to what you've seen so far. So all of those football clubs play in a part of Dickens Heath that's much closer to Whitlock's End than it is to the main village. Let's drive into and through that place now and learn a bit about it. Dickens Heath began as a small hamlet. For a long time it stayed almost the same. Maps from the 1800s through to the late 1900s show very little change, and most people living here worked on farms. It was extremely rural. It was the sort of place that we'd usually see in the depths of the Derbyshire Dales, for example. However, everything changed in the late 1980s. You see, back then Solihull Council needed space for new homes. In 1989, the council set out plans for a new settlement beside the old hamlet of Dickens Heath, and from that point onward, it was never the same again. The plan suggested around 850 new houses near Dickens Heath Road and Tidbury Lane. A public inquiry took place in 1991, and after a government inspector supported the idea, the council approved the project in 1992. Architects John Simpson and partners were asked to design the new village. Their concept became known as the Master Plan of 1995. Within it, there was a clear vision of how the village centre and its housing would be arranged. The plan said the new area should have its own identity. It should have homes mixed in with shops, places to eat, a school, a library, a hall, a doctor's surgery and a pub. It also said the streets should feel safe for people, but they should still allow cars. Building work finally began in August 1997, some 8 years after the plans were first thought up. The first show home opened in December that year, and the first family moved in May 1998. The school opened in 2002, and the library followed in 2004. The new housing grew quickly. What had once been a small rural spot turned into a large modern village in just over a decade. By the early 2000s, the plan aimed for a total of 1,672 homes and a population of around 4,000 people once complete. There are nearly 5,000 people here now. The village centre was designed as the heart of the new place. It included a market square, garden squares and other streets with flats and houses above shops. The centre also included on-site management offices to help keep things running smoothly. The whole project was one of the first large planned villages of its type in the UK during the 1990s. It turned former farmland and open land into a busy residential area with a strong focus on housing and a planned centre built from scratch. In some cases, and you'll see this as we walk around it in a moment, you would describe this as a bit posh. Certainly the area around Waterside Heights gives you that impression. This is definitely not a village that's seen hard times. It's far too young for that. Right, so here we are then in Dickens Heath Village, time for a walk around, and I imagine this will take me about sort of an hour or so. It's a big place, but I'm not walking around all of it. Again, just like Tidbury Green, it's kind of all residential apart from a planned village centre, which we will walk through. We're also going to be walking up the Stratford Canal as well, planned that into this route. So let's see what this one's got on offer, shall we? First of all, there's plenty of houses. You'll be sick of the sight of them by the time we're finished.
Dickens Heath Country Park and Local Nature Reserve sits beside the modern village and was planned as part of the area's brand new growth. It was first set aside as public open space in 2006 and later became an official local nature reserve in 2010. The park covers 7.3 hectares, which is a size chosen to keep meadow areas, ponds, hedges and wetland together in one place. There's an oak pasture, old ponds and long hedgerows. They were kept when the park was planned. New ponds were added after 2006 to support more wildlife. Footpaths circle the ponds, though the undergrowth can grow thick and hide the water at times. The park has meadow zones that stretch across open ground, with grassland managed to help insects and birds. The best thing about this park is that it sits close to the homes of Dickens Heath, so people can reach it quickly for short walks.
So we're just coming around a pond here, which you can see there between these trees. That's a feature of this country park. And this path that we're currently on, it leads to the Stratford Canal, which we'll be walking up very, very shortly. Now, as I've been making my way through this country park, I've been able to see in the distance a block of flats called Waterside Heights. That's what we're heading for next. One of the ways you can exit that park will take you to Waterside Heights. This is a modern apartment development in the centre of Dickens Heath. It was built as part of the large village expansion that took place from the late 1990s onward. These are certainly upmarket properties. The development forms part of a large group of apartment blocks that were added during the main building phase of the village, and these are by no means small. A first-floor apartment at Waterside Heights is usually described as having 2 bedrooms, lift access and modern fittings. Waterside Heights is noted for its views. Some apartments look out over open ground and nearby green areas, but some look out over the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal, which is the very thing which gives this block its name. A beautiful cascade of water through the middle of the flats like that. It's definitely a unique feature, isn't it? Now, that water drains into the canal, which you can see here. Now, my original plan was to cross that bridge you can see here, but I can't get to it because there's a locked gate. But that doesn't matter because there's a towpath on this side as well. So we're just going to follow the canal for, I don't know, half a mile, and it'll take us up to a wharf.
The Stratford-upon-Avon Canal runs close to the edge of Dickens Heath. In fact, this watercourse forms the majority of the eastern boundary. This canal is one of the oldest transport routes in the area. It was first approved in 1793, when an act allowed builders to start work on it. By 1796, the digging teams had reached Hockley Heath, which sits only a short distance from Dickens Heath. Money then ran out, so work paused until more funds were raised. When they were, the canal finally joined the Warwick and Birmingham Canal in 1802. 14 years later, there was a full link to the River Avon at Stratford. In its early years, the canal carried coal. Boats moved slowly along the narrow waterway, passing through locks and under bridges. The canal later came under railway control in 1856, which led to a long period of decline. By the mid-1900s, parts of the southern section were almost unusable. A major rescue effort took place, and the southern stretch was restored and reopened in 1964. Here at Dickens Heath, the canal runs through calm stretches with a towpath beside it. Walkers use this path every day, while boats still travel along the water. This stretch of the canal now forms part of the Avon cruising ring, which links several waterways across the region. The full canal is 25 miles long and has 56 locks.
So I did eventually get to the other side of the canal because there's another bridge a bit further up. So we are here at the wharf, we're back en route again. And this is called Three Maypoles Wharf, although there's no maypoles here, at least none that I know of. There was once a wharf on the canal in this kind of area. It was called Three Maypoles Wharf, taking its name from the nearby Three Maypoles area, already marked on older maps long before the modern village of Dickens Heath was built. The name Three Maypoles does not come from three dancing poles or festival poles. That's what you would maybe initially think. Instead, research into local place names explains that a maypole in this area was most likely a tall guide pole used to help travellers find their way at a junction. Today, the wharf is used as a small access point for walkers and boaters. Canal guides note it as a place where the towpath can be reached easily and where boats can pause before heading toward the lock flights further south. Now we've reached Dickens Heath Community Primary School. This opened in September 2002 to serve the new village that was being built from the late 1990s onward. Solihull Council purposely planned the school as part of the main layout for the village centre. It was one of the first major public buildings completed during the main building phase. The building was designed with modern classrooms, a hall, outdoor play areas and space for future growth. In all senses, it was your typical early 21st century school. The school was planned to take in children from reception to Year 6, with room for extra classes if the village kept growing. Well, it certainly did that. The school later gained academy status and is now part of the Dickens Heath Multi-Academy Trust. Now we're on the village green. This, like the school, was planned during the main building phase of the new village. In fact, it was even included in the original master plan, which set out where the homes, the school, the shops and the public spaces would all go. The green was placed near the centre so that people living in the new homes would have an open space close by. It also sits beside Main Street and is bordered by the earliest apartment blocks built during the first stages of the village. Because Dickens Heath was built almost all at once, the green does not have any old historic layers like greens in older villages. That said, you can maybe view this as a surviving part of the huge heath that once covered this whole area. So if you cross the green like we have just done, you're coming into the centre of Dickens Heath, which is based around one main street, but then there's a few little offshoots here and there. Also in the village centre, you can find probably what is the biggest village hall I think I've ever seen. It's this massive building here right next to the play area you can see just to the right of shot. Let's talk about this next.
Dickens Heath Village Hall sits beside the village green and again was built as part of the large plan that shaped the new village. The hall was included in the early design work for the new settlement, which aimed to place key buildings close together so people could reach them with ease. As the village grew, the hall opened to support events, clubs and simple public use. It was also set up as a registered charity, so it could be run for local benefit and stay focused on practical needs. The hall has a large main room with bright lighting from two sides, which makes it good for sports. In terms of size, it's just a little bigger than a badminton court. The entrance faces the village green, and inside there is a foyer with toilets for all users. The kitchen has simple domestic tools such as cups, plates, a fridge, a cooker, and a microwave. The hall can seat up to 130 people, so it's used well for things like parties, classes, and talks. There is no set parking, but public car parks are nearby. It's also handily close to the shops and the children's playground.
So the middle of the village has got everything you'd expect from a big village like this, like a shop, for example. It's also got a medical centre, which I'm stood right next to. If there's one thing Dickens Heath does well, it's healthcare. This, the Solihull Medical Partnership practice, sits on Old Dickens Heath Road and works as one of the branch sites of a larger group. Before the partnership was formed, this site was part of the JC practice. It still works in a similar way today because the building is small. The Dickens Heath building is mainly used for routine care, checks and planned visits, while bigger sites in the partnership handle urgent needs and extra services. Dickens Heath Library opened in October 2004, again included in the early plans for the new settlement. Inside, the library has computers, printing, free Wi-Fi, and a range of books for kids and adults. It's open 4 days a week. Now, handily, we've got a map here, and this will show us where we've been and where we're about to go. We are currently there, you see, right in the middle of Dickens Heath. And this street here is Main Street. We're going to be walking down that very shortly. We've already covered all of this. I parked down here, went through the park, and then followed the canal, which is all the way up there, and I've weaved my way back down to here. So let's go for Main Street then now, which is a bit busier than your average village Main Street at the moment because it's the middle of the day. Amelia, tell us a bit about this, please.
Okay, so now we're walking down Main Street, which is the commercial heart of Dickens Heath. These shops were planned from the start, as the layout was included in the early design work for the new settlement. As the village grew through the early 2000s, the first shops opened and helped form the centre of the new area. The street sits close to the main market square, the canal paths and the village green, all placed together in the master plan. Today, Main Street has a mix of food places, service sites and small stores. There is a supermarket for daily needs, a pizza takeaway, a coffee shop with seating and a bar. Hair and beauty sites also operate on the street, and an estate agent office works nearby. There's a dental practice and a gym too. These sites help people find what they need without long travel, but if there is one downside, it's that you can't really do your main weekly shop in the village. Larger supermarkets are further away. The shops sit on the ground floor of these taller buildings, which were designed to place homes above the retail units. The street has changed over time as new units have opened and others have closed, but it still remains a place where people can shop and eat comfortably.
And as quick as that, we're at the other end. It's not the longest street in the world, but certainly very, very upmarket. Dickens Heath does have this reputation for being a little bit posh, doesn't it? And you can see now why I use that term to describe waterside heights. The centre of the village is absolutely just the same. Okay, so from this point onwards, we are heading back towards where we began. We've got another little medical centre to pass just here, and then there's a roundabout which is between here and the end, which has got a sculpture on it that I don't know anything about, but hopefully there's some sort of plaque or something that will tell us what it's about. We'll soon see. The Solihull Health Check Clinic next. This works as an independent medical site that offers health checks and screening tests. The clinic is run by Structured Care Limited, and the Care Quality Commission rates it as good in all areas. So that is Dickens Heath. This one began as a tiny patch of rough open ground named after Thomas Dickens, who lived here in 1524. For centuries, it sat as part of Solihull's old heathland, with woodland, scrub and small clearings stretching out across the Forest of Arden. For most of its past, Dickens Heath stayed rural and quiet, with farm labourers working the fields and only small changes appearing on maps right up to the late 20th century. Everything changed in the late 1980s though, when Solihull Council stepped in. Today, Dickens Heath is a fully formed modern village with nearly 5,000 residents. It mixes an old canal corridor, a village green, a nature reserve and a planned centre built from scratch in the early 2000s. Each of those tells a different tale of the place we've just explored.
By the long water path where the narrow boats glide, you can watch silver ripples pull soft on the side. Every keel makes a murmur as ropes gently sway, and the towpath keeps guiding each vessel away. The canal keeps calling and the waves feel like home. Dickens Heath, near the water where the long boats roam. The low hum of engines drift under the trees. The pull of the tiller cuts smooth through the breeze. There are locks with slow paddles and gates worn by rain, and the wash of a stern leaves a wavering chain. There are reeds that lean over like guards on the bend, and the churn of a prop is like a soft-spoken friend. The canal keeps calling and the waves feel like home. Dickens Heath, near the water where the long boats roam. The low hum of engines drift under the trees. The pull of the tiller cuts smooth through the breeze. This part is based on the Wellerman. There once was a boat on a Midlands cut. Her ropes were worn and her deck was scuffed. The horse on the towpath pulled enough as the lock gates groaned and swung. Soon may the boatman's run bring strong tea brewed in the sun. We'll haul that barge till the day is done and drift through the fields again. The canal keeps calling and the waves feel like home. Dickens Heath, near the water where the long boats roam. The low hum of engines drift under the trees. The pull of the tiller cuts smooth through the breeze. The canal keeps calling and the waves feel like home. Dickens Heath, near the water where the long boats roam.
Hello folks, welcome back to Solihull again for round number 3 this week, and number 8 overall. We're halfway through the district now. There's only 16 out here. Now, I've brought you to begin with in this one to a clump of trees, which is something that's not out of the ordinary really, because as we know, this all used to be part of the Forest of Arden. There's trees all over the place. However, this little clump is quite significant because it's on a piece of land that's raised up compared to the area around it. I can see residential streets to my left and to my right. They're sort of lower down, if you like. This is the Mount, and you can find it in Cheswick Green. Cheswick Green, green at the cheese farm. Today on TVI we come to Cheswick Green on the southwestern edge of Solihull, about 3 miles from the town centre. This lies between Shirley, Dickens Heath and the fields running towards Earlswood and Warings Green. A civil parish in its own right, it was created in 2009. The name turns up in records from 1250 as Cheswick. Linguists link it to Old English words for a cheese farm or a small dairy settlement. It sits in the same family as Chiswick in London and Cheswick in Northumberland, both linked with cheese making. Long before the modern houses this has plenty of, this was Arden woodland and rough farmland. At Ilshaw Heath, which is now part of the parish, there was an early manor site. In the village itself, the best known ancient earthworks belonged to the Mount, formerly a defended Saxon farmstead. In the Domesday Book, the landscape was wrapped into wider estates such as Nuthurst and Tanworth, with woodland, ploughland and meadow recorded for the king and his tenants. Later documents pick out places like Sidenhall, whose manor once stood near Ilshaw Heath. Medieval lords in this area included the de Elshaw and de Sidenhall families, who managed the scattered farms and woods. Over centuries, those holdings passed through gentry hands, then into larger estates. We now have a totally different village though. Cheswick Green today is a planned village with a centre that dates from the late 1960s and 1970s. It has a green, a parade of shops, a pub, a surgery and a school, all gathered around Cheswick Way. It was laid out as a typical village of the 70s. Many Birmingham families made simple bungalows here their permanent homes after wartime bombing. Beyond the village is even newer housing at Blythe Valley Park, and the Stratford Canal is within a short drive. In the village, the Mount's tree-lined earthwork sits quietly behind some of the modern houses, and that's easily the best feature here. In the early 1900s, Birmingham lawyer Philip Baker turned the Mount into a pleasure ground with a ballroom and a maze. Local talk still lingers around the Mount, in fact. Stories tell of its Saxon defenders watching for raiders and of visitors getting lost in Baker's maze on summer outings. The water-filled moat, shaded by trees, adds to that slightly secret feel it has. Cheswick Green brings together a landscape formed from cheese farms and manors to 70s cul-de-sacs and new estates. From Ilshaw Heath to Blythe Valley, from earthworks and farmsteads and shop fronts and school gates, this all sits quietly on Solihull's southern edge.
Amelia's Features.
Hello folks, it's Amelia here. I hope you're ready for some more features. In this one, I have to take you from the earthworks of the Mount all the way down to the brand new Blythe Valley Park, and there's loads in between.
Right, here we go then. We are at the Mount to begin this episode, which Amelia is going to tell you all about.
So, straight to the scene of the action. Let's get started at the best landmark the village of Cheswick Green has. This is the Mount, a place with a long past and a lot of real detail to explore. It began as an early Saxon fortified site, built to keep people safe from robbers. The land it occupies sat inside a bank and a water-filled moat, and the whole area covered just over 1 acre. When a group led by T.L. Jones dug here in 1953, they found 13th century pottery, which helped date the early life of the site. In 1904, the land was bought by Birmingham lawyer Philip Baker, who turned it into a busy pleasure ground. He added refreshment rooms, a ballroom, tennis courts, a maze and themed gardens, including one based on the atrium of the Vestal Virgins and another shaped like a Victoria Cross. For a short time, people from Birmingham came here for fun days out, but vandalism caused problems, and the start of the First World War brought the pleasure ground to an end. In 1916, the land was divided into smaller plots and sold. Today, the Mount is still an archaeological site, and the parish council looks after what remains. You can still see the shape of the old bank and the moat, and the land is still treated as an important link to the early past of Cheswick Green.
So the Mount is one of those places that you kind of need to know is there, otherwise you would probably never know. If you just drive up this road, you can see Chatsworth Close on the right and a clump of trees. That's where the Mount is, but there's nothing to tell you that that's the Mount. It's not until you actually get inside those trees that you see those notice boards, so otherwise you would probably never know it was there. Right, let's go for a walk then now around the village, and it looks mostly like what you can see on the camera now. Okay, so after that longish walk through some of the housing you can find here in Cheswick Green to the sort of northwestern side, we come to this patch of green here, and behind me there's a memorial. Now this is a very, very unusual kind of memorial. We don't normally see one of these, and this has even got an amazing story linked to it. Amelia, it's all yours.
The Boer War Memorial in Cheswick Green stands at the corner of Noble Way and Coppice Walk. This is one of the smallest, but one of the most important historic markers in the parish. It was built to honour soldiers from the First and Second Boer Wars. It also commemorates Victoria Cross winners from those conflicts. The memorial is a freestanding pillar made from rough stone with carved lettering set into its surface. It stands on a small base, and the whole structure sits in an open external setting, surrounded by grass and nearby trees. The Boer Wars took place far from Solihull, so why on earth is there a memorial for it here? Well, here's why. The stones used to build it were rescued from the now demolished Boer War Memorial at Birmingham's Old Moor Street Law Courts. Instead of being destroyed, the stones somehow ended up in the garden of number 194 Crenolds Lane in Cheswick Green, where they remained for years. No one knows exactly how they got there, but they were kept safe rather than thrown away. When the stones were rediscovered, a local historian helped uncover their background. The parish and borough councils, along with Blore Homes, agreed that the stones should be rebuilt as a proper memorial, so the Boer War history linked to Warwickshire would not disappear.
Now, if you couldn't read this plaque in the last shot, I will read it to you. It says, "To the 513 sons of Birmingham who died in South Africa, in memory of the men of Warwickshire who fought in the South African War. Time cannot entomb nor age obliterate the deeds of the brave." Absolutely right, that. Okay, so from this memorial, we're going to head towards the village centre. There's a few nice open spaces in Cheswick Green. This is Benches Green, which is a fine example. This is just off Cheswick Way and it's usually listed as a small park and garden space. When Cheswick Green was planned as a new village, the wider area was laid out with green pockets. Benches Green is one of these pockets. Its presence helps explain how the whole settlement was designed back in the 1960s. It's not a large park, but it does offer a small open space where people can sit for a moment. Now, it's good weather for a pint today, as you can probably tell, and there's a pub here in Cheswick Green, so if you fancy one, call in to the Saxon.
This is the Saxon, a pub that sits on Cheswick Way. It's a traditional estate pub that's been here pretty much since the place was built. It's changed hands a bit in the past, with various people claiming on review sites that it's been cleaner and better run in its time. Those same reviews mention that the pub once offered guest beers and simple food, though food is no longer part of the current offer. Today, the Saxon is part of the Craft Union Pub Group, which runs wet-led pubs across the country. The Saxon has long been used as a simple meeting place for people in the area. It still keeps features that regulars expect, such as darts, sport on screens, and a relaxed layout. The pub's opening hours begin at 11 each morning. There is no archaeological or documentary evidence linking the pub's location to a Saxon settlement or some sort of battle. The nearest genuine Saxon site is the Mount, but there's no published link between that site and the pub name. That's probably the reason behind the name, though.
What do we think? Does this guy look authentically Saxon? Who knows? As well as the pub, there's a small row of shops in Cheswick Green, built in the early 1970s as part of the planned village layout. It still serves the same purpose today. Cheswick Green was designed as a new settlement with modern amenities placed together, and the shop parade was part of that plan. These were built to support the first 550 homes, which were offered for sale in 1969 by the Greaves organisation. The parade was placed on the main route through these houses so that people could reach it easily on foot from all parts of the village. Today, the row includes 2 shops, a local cafe, a pharmacy and a doctor's surgery. The exact businesses have changed over time, but the layout remains the same as when the estate was first built, just as the planners intended. So here's the village surgery. It's run by GPS Healthcare and it's an active NHS practice today. It's part of the Birmingham and Solihull Integrated Care Board, which oversees GP services in the area. It offers standard GP care, prescription services and online access for appointments and records. The surgery has 8 medical staff, including several GPs, a practice nurse and a healthcare assistant. The surgery opens from 8 AM to 6 PM on most weekdays, with a shorter session on Wednesdays. The village hall is also off Cheswick Way, close to the shops and the surgery. It was purpose-built in the early 1970s, included in the layout of Cheswick Green from the start. It's now been in place for around 50 years. It continues to be used in exactly the same way as it was planned for regular activities, meetings and bookings. It remains one of the longest-standing parts of the original estate design, and its role has stayed consistent since the day it opened. The recreation ground in Cheswick Green also forms part of the layout built when the village was planned in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Geez, at this point I'm at risk of really repeating myself here, but hey, this is what I've got to work with. The ground is managed by Cheswick Green Parish Council, one of the main open areas it maintains. It's used for football, walking and outdoor play, and it links directly to the footpaths that run through the village. Because the ground was part of the first phase of the estate, it stayed almost unchanged in size and layout since the early 1970s. It remains one of the most used outdoor spaces in the village and continues to serve the purpose it was built for when the first homes went on sale in 1969. Okay, we've got a bit of a walk to get to our next thing because of this stream. We have to cross this, and this will take us to a road which you can probably hear or maybe even see in the distance there. Once we're on said road, we'll be heading for a cricket club.
Earlswood Cricket Club is one of the oldest sports clubs in this area, with its founding date of 1876 recorded in its official history. The club's home ground is on Watery Lane, just outside the village, and this location has been used for cricket for generations. The club runs 5 senior Saturday teams, playing in both the Warwickshire League and the Cotswold Hills League. It also fields a Sunday 11 in the Arden Sunday League, keeping weekend cricket active across several formats. Earlswood has a strong record of developing young players. Juniors can join from the age of 5, taking part in the ECB All-Stars programme and moving through teams from under 9 to under 19. Training takes place on Friday evenings. Indoor winter training is held at Solihull College. The club also has a growing women's and girls section, which began in 2014 and entered the Midlands Women's Cricket League in 2017. Girls teams now play at several age groups. To support its expanding membership, Earlswood rents extra pitches at Henley and Arden and Bourneville.
If you've been watching me all week this week, you have to agree with me, I'm sure, that this was definitely part of the Forest of Arden, wasn't it? You can tell by all the leafy greenness that's around. It's certainly nothing like central Birmingham, which is only a few miles up the road, but that's just how it is. You come out from the big city and you find this gorgeous place. I'm really enjoying my time here in Cheswick Green, to be honest with you. I don't really want this one to end, but it's about to, because from here we only have one thing to cover in the village, and that's the school. And then when we've done that, we'll be off on our travels again to find some other bits and bobs that are still within the boundaries, including a church, there's Blythe Park, and there's even a training centre for a well-known bank. Back into the village, our last landmark is Cheswick Green Primary School. This is a mixed-state school on Cheswick Way which has appeared in Ofsted reports for over 20 years. Full inspections were published in 2000, 2005, 2009, 2014 and most recently in 2023. The latest inspection judged the school as good. The school has a capacity of 280 pupils with 266 on roll at its most recent update. It also has nursery provision. The current head teacher is Mr. Thomas Griffiths. It's not the only school in this parish, and we'll see why in a short while. And here we are, back at the Mount, after having a nice stroll around Cheswick Green. Now, as I said, there are still a few bits and bobs we need to cover in this one, starting with that banking centre.
Cheswick Green Village wasn't the only thing purpose-built around here in the mid-1960s. It was a time when large banks were expanding their internal training programmes. So, with that in mind, this is the Lloyds Bank Learning Centre on Crenolds Lane. It's a long-standing business site linked to the Lloyds Banking Group. The building was constructed in 1965, making it one of the older corporate properties in the Blythe ward of Solihull. In essence, this is simply just a training facility for Lloyds staff. It was built as a detached business property, and it has remained in use for training and internal work ever since it was constructed. So, why would a major bank have their training centre here? Well, there's a good reason actually. Lloyds Bank began in 1765, grew through huge 19th century mergers, and adopted the black horse symbol in 1884, before becoming one of Britain's biggest banks. And where did they begin? Birmingham. That explains why this exists near Solihull. The bank has deep Midlands roots. Lloyds Bank began as Taylors and Lloyds, founded by Sampson Lloyd and John Taylor, both well-known Birmingham businessmen. It operated from a single office for almost 100 years. Its main historical archives are not here in the Midlands. Instead, they're held in London and Edinburgh.
Obviously can't see much of that from the road. It's private, obviously, so we can't go down the drive to actually see the building, but trust me, it's there. Now, something we definitely can see is a church and a school. So let's go and find those next.
We're a long way south of the village now, at St Patrick's Church. This is one of the most important historic buildings in the area. It's listed Grade 2 on the National Heritage List for England, with the first listing made in 1949. The oldest part of the church is the West Tower, built in 1860 and 61 by the architect G.T. Robinson. It's made of red brick with stone dressings, and it includes paired lancet windows, a 3-light bell opening, and a carved entrance with double doors set back inside a deep arch. The tower was designed in the early English Gothic style, which can be seen in the tall gables and the detailed stonework. Between 1897 and 1902, architect W.H. Bidlake added the nave and the chancel, joining them directly onto the earlier tower. Those later parts are also built of red brick, with buff brick inside, and include a 5-bay nave, an organ chamber, and an apsidal crypt beneath the sanctuary. The clay-tiled roofs match the tower and help tie the two building phases together. Today, St Patrick's remains an active Anglican parish church within the Birmingham diocese, serving Cheswick Green, Dickens Heath, Ilshaw Heath, and nearby areas. Regular services continue each week, and all the while, the church keeps its historic layout and appearance.
Well, to say this church is practically speaking in the middle of nowhere, it's absolutely magnificent, isn't it? It's not quite on its own, because next door there's a school. And next to that church is St Patrick's Church of England Primary Academy. See, I wasn't lying when I said there was another school. It's a primary school with an admission number of 30, and its catchment includes, of course, Cheswick Green. However, this is a long way from anywhere you would consider civilization, and as such, pupils also come from Dickens Heath, Monk's Path, Blythe Valley, and part of Earlswood. The school serves pupils aged 3 to 11. Ofsted last inspected it on the 3rd of July 2018 and gave it a good rating.
Also, within the southernmost reaches of the parish is Blythe Valley Park, beside Junction 4 of the M42. This has a history that begins with Sydenhale Farm, which once covered the land it all sits on. The farm was linked to the parish of Tanworth in Arden. The land stayed in agricultural use until the death of the last owner in 1984, when Solihull Council purchased it for future development. Plans for a major business site began in the late 1990s, and the first phase of construction started in 1999. The motorway junction was remodelled to give direct access to it, and the site was laid out with large office buildings, footpaths, and water features set within open parkland. A striking feature of it all now is the Blythe Bridge, which crosses the motorway. The park grew quickly because of its position near the motorway and its proximity to Birmingham Airport. Today, it's home to major brands, including Gymshark, who have their headquarters within the business park. In 2020, work began on a new mini-village inside Blythe Valley Park. The plans included 750 homes, a nursery, an independent coffee house, and green areas for walking. The first 100 homes were completed the following year. Today, Blythe Valley Park continues to grow as a mix of offices, homes, and parkland. It's one of the fastest growing areas around here now. Our final landmark today is Shirley Golf Club. This stands on land that once formed the Shirley Park Racecourse, which was a major racing venue that opened in 1899 and was extremely popular in the early 20th century. It held national hunt meetings. The racecourse had 2 wooden grandstands, which held crowds of up to 15,000 people attending big events. After 1947, racing continued under Pony Turf Club rules, keeping the site active until the mid-20th century. By the early 1950s, the racecourse had closed, and a group of Jewish golfers who had faced exclusion from other clubs decided to create a new golf club of their own. They purchased their old racetrack through a trusted friend to avoid discrimination during the bidding process. A full land survey was completed in 1955, and the new course was laid out across the former track. The clubhouse stands on the site of one of the old grandstands. It was designed in the 1950s by John Madden, a Birmingham architect known for several landmark buildings in the city. Today, Shirley Golf Club operates as an 18-hole course with regular competitions and practice areas. Although the grandstands and track have long gone, the shape of the old racecourse still influences the layout of the fairways.
So there you have it, that's Cheswick Green. It's another modern parish laid out in the late 1960s and 70s, but sitting on land with a far older story. All around it lie reminders that this was once Arden woodland, shaped by farms long before the cul-de-sacs arrived. The mount is the landmark that does it for me. Hidden behind the houses, its bank and its water-filled moat still mark the outline of an early Saxon fortified site. In the early 1900s, it briefly became a pleasure ground, complete with ballroom and maze. Then there's the Boer War stones, rebuilt into a memorial, the long-standing cricket club at Watery Lane, St Patrick's Church with its 19th century tower, and the ever-growing Blythe Valley Park, rising where Sidenhale Farm once stood. There's so much to take in here, isn't there?
I stand on the bank where the old moat lies. Trees circle a ridge under daylight skies. I sing on the ground where the earth once stood, past twist in the shade where the past is heard. Oh, the mount on a rise with your ring of green, a place where the years sit soft and serene. I walked your edge when the summer shone, and danced through the dusk till the light was gone. I shaped this slope with a dream in mind, amazing the trees for the crowd to find. A hall on the height where the music would play, and steps on the grass where couples could sway. Oh, the mount on a rise with your ring of green, a place where the years sit soft and serene. I walked your edge when the summers shone, and danced through the dusk till the light was gone. Saxon shields once stood on this ancient ground, watching the woods with a watchful sound. Then laughter came with a ballroom glow, bright lamps above and a floor below. The maze wound tight in a leafy ring, a puzzle of turns, a mysterious thing. Warm nights drifted by as dancers spun, and the music rolled on till the set was done. Oh, the mount on a rise with your ring of green, a place where the years sit soft and serene. I walked your edge when the summer shone, and danced through the dusk till the light was gone. So take my arm as the band strikes clear, glide over the turf where the steps appear, spin once more as the night turns blue, for the hill still sings, and it sings for you. So take my arm as the band strikes clear, glide over the turf where the steps appear, spin once more as the night turns blue, for the hill still sings, and it sings for you.
Hello folks, welcome back to Solihull once again. Now behind me there you can see I've got a Premier Inn. I stay in Premier Inns or travel lodges or Airbnbs all the time. Prefer Premier Inns because I think you get more for your money when you come to one of these places. This one you can find in today's village. It's called Hockley Heath. Hockley Heath, rough ground at an oak clearing. Two more Solihull places for you this week. Today we're in Hockley Heath on the A3400, right on the edge of the Arden countryside between Birmingham and Stratford-upon-Avon. Once again, the Stratford-upon-Avon Canal threads through this one. The name Hockley is thought to come from Oakley, meaning a meadow of oaks. That's a nod to the old Arden woodland that once cloaked these slopes. Heath, on the other hand, means rough ground, so putting the two together, we get rough ground at an oak clearing. As we know, this was forest country. In the early 700s AD, Mercian rulers such as Offa and Conrad granted woodland here to Worcester Cathedral, tying Hockley Heath's landscape to the church and royal power. The track that became the Stratford Road, upon which most of the modern village now lies, likely began as a route through dense Arden woodland. The Domesday entry recorded lots of woodland here rather than a large village held under powerful Norman lords. Over time, the manor passed through the de Mowbray and Hastings families to the Trussells, and that brings us to Sir William Trussell of Nuthurst. He was the man who famously told Edward II he was deposed. It was a dramatic moment rooted in this quiet countryside. If one feature captures Hockley Heath today, it would be the canal. Cut here in the late 1700s, it brought coal, timber and building materials to Hockley Wharf. Narrowboats still glide under the remaining brick bridges past the old wharf and a winding hole. Hockley Heath has other things. St Thomas's Church, built in 1879 when the parish of Nuthurst-cum-Hockley Heath was created, stands on Spring Lane. Nearby lie the War Memorial, the recreation ground and the school, while just beyond are things like the Umberslade obelisk. People have always given this place its character. Sir William Trussell strode from Nuthurst into national history, yes, but in later centuries Birmingham industrialists built country houses here. Today, commuters, farmers and enthusiasts from a vintage sports car club all share these lanes. Local legends are a bit thin, but older residents can still recall the last commercial boat into Hockley Wharf on Christmas Eve 1929 and the long campaign to save the canal from closure. Others speak of earthworks at Old Nuthurst where ridges and hollows mark vanished cottages and lanes. Hockley Heath feels like a place where past and present walk side by side, whether you arrive by towpath, the ancient main road or simply follow the footpaths. It's the sort of place which can surprise you a bit. Let's see what it's got for us.
Hiya everyone, it's me, Amelia. Today I have some really good bits of history to discuss. I'll be telling you, for example, about Sir William Trussell and his hugely important role in medieval politics. I'll be all over this village too. So, before we go walking, we need to talk about the most famous man to have ever known Hockley Heath, Sir William Trussell. His role in the fall of Edward II is one of the most dramatic moments in early 14th century politics. He was not simply present at the king's removal. It was he who delivered the formal words that ended Edward's reign. That act made him a central figure in a constitutional turning point, and it seemed apt too, because he'd long opposed Edward II's rule. He fought with the rebel barons and was declared the king's enemy, fleeing abroad after a defeat at Boroughbridge in 1322. When Queen Isabella and Roger Mortimer returned to England in 1326 to overthrow Edward, Trussell joined their cause and became one of their most trusted agents. By January 1327, Edward II was imprisoned and Parliament had gathered at Westminster to decide his fate. The Assembly produced a list of charges accusing the king of misrule, favouritism, military failure, and breaking his coronation oath. The political pressure was overwhelming, and Edward was forced to accept that he could no longer govern. At that point, Trussell stepped forward as Procurator of the Realm, effectively the legal voice of the kingdom. Acting on behalf of the Lords and Commons, he renounced England's allegiance to Edward II. This was the decisive legal act that made the deposition official. It was the first time an English king had been removed by parliamentary authority. After the deposition, Trussell continued to serve the new regime. Under Edward III, he became a senior royal official, undertaking diplomatic missions and helping stabilise the new government. His later career as a statesman shows he was central to the political world that emerged after Edward II. In short, Sir William Trussell of Nuthurst was not just a local landholder with a dramatic moment in national history. He was the man who spoke the words that ended a troubled reign, a rare and powerful role in medieval England, and one that secured his place in the historical records.
For centuries, Hockley Heath has been a place well known to travellers. It stands on the A3400, which is the main road between Birmingham and Stratford-upon-Avon. Historians reckon that back in Saxon days, the road as we know it now was a track linking the two places. These days, the stretch of the road at Hockley Heath is between the M42 Junction 4 and the M40 Junction 16. That means it's the ideal spot for a Premier Inn. I stayed here before making this episode, but it's not just handy for TVI. This is ideal for people going to Birmingham, Stratford-upon-Avon and other local features like Packwood House. Next door is a Beefeater restaurant. The hotel doesn't have a long past like older inns in the area. It was built as part of Premier Inn's expansion near the major modern motorways. Okay, we've sort of hit the middle of Hockley Heath here. This road behind me, that runs to a place called Dorridge, which is within the unparished area of Solihull. So we won't ever be seeing that on the channel unless it gains a parish council. You watch, it will now, won't it? But there's not really much point going up there because it's mainly all housing. What there is here on this corner though is a pub. It's a branch of Miller and Carter. Amelia, this is for you.
Long before there was a Premier Inn in Hockley Heath, there were other pubs and inns. The Miller and Carter on Stratford Road is one such example. This stands on the same spot where the old Nag's Head once was. There's a photo which does the rounds online from about 1960, which shows the old pub with its front facing the road, and people in the area still talk about how it looked back then. Some remember it under a later name, the Wayfarer. It used to be packed during nights out in the 1970s, but the most surprising memories of it come from its garden. People say there were wild animals kept there in the past, and one account even mentions lions in a cage. It's changed a lot from the days of the old Nag's Head. Now a Miller and Carter, it's a steakhouse that is part of a national chain. Because Hockley Heath is so close to the motorways, the NEC, and Birmingham Airport, travellers often stop here. The restaurant has a large outdoor eating space and plenty of parking beside the building. Inside, the focus is on steak, as you would expect. The restaurant has been given the Masters of Steak Award, which is based on checks by the Craft Guild of Chefs. The beef comes from trusted farmers.
As it turns out, I have to walk down the road a little bit so I can get to Park View, which is the street I'm currently on here. This will take us towards the recreation ground, which has got an interesting story to it here in Hockley Heath.
The recreation ground has been an important place in the village for a long time. The land was first bought in 1924 for £650 after trustees raised funds through events and donations. One of the most unusual fundraisers involved a road car. That's road as in Rhode Island, not road as in the thing you drive on. It was taken around the country to collect 1 shilling from supporters. The car was later raffled at a concert in 1923. A wooden pavilion was added to the ground in 1925, giving visitors a small base for sports. In 1930, the land was sold to the Rural District Council of Solihull, and in 1964, it passed to the newly formed Hockley Heath Parish Council, which still looks after it today. The ground has grown over time, and now includes a bowls green, a woodland area, and a dirt track that was part funded by the Village Fete Group. A multi-use games area sits near the centre and has an all-weather surface for football, basketball, and general play.
Okay, we've got an interesting little selection of landmarks coming up now, starting with the building you can see behind me. That's the community centre. It's a community centre next. This opened on the 5th of September 1981. It was officially opened by Admiral Sir Andrew Lewis, who was at the time Lord Lieutenant of Essex. The building was set up to serve people in the village and to give them a place for indoor activities. The site has 2 main parts, the office area and the bar area. The office is open on set mornings during the week, whilst the bar opens on selected evenings. The times can change and the centre notes this on its website, but the bar is also closed on some days for private hire too. The War Memorial in Hockley Heath stands at the meeting point of the A3400 and the B4439, where it has stood since it was unveiled on the 2nd of April 1921. The opening event was led by Colonel Sir William Bowater, and the dedication was carried out by Reverend Canon J.A. Binney. The memorial was designed by the Birmingham firm Bateman & Bateman, and it was carved by John White, who worked with Portland stone to create the tall and detailed structure. The memorial has an octagonal base with 3 steps, and above sits a plinth with carved names. The column has a carved band of bay leaves running up its length. Near the top are 3 sundials, each with a bronze gnomon and a short carved phrase. A lion sits at the very top. The memorial was restored in 1989, and now it's a Grade 2 listed structure. Just around the corner is the King George VI Memorial Hall. In 1952, this building was bought by Mr. Walter Higgs, who then gifted it to people living within 2 miles of it. It was registered with the Charity Commission soon after and renamed the King George VI Memorial Hall. The hall is run by a group of trustees. Some trustees are chosen by local user groups, and 4 more are co-opted by the trustees themselves. Their job is to look after the building and make sure it stays in good condition. Part of the hall is leased to Hockley Heath Social Club, which uses its section for its own activities. In 2015, a defibrillator was fixed to the outside wall. It was paid for through fundraising by the Hall, the Hockley Heath Fete Association, St Thomas's Church and Certas Energy. Alright, so if you keep going on down the road, you eventually come to the end of Solihull and you enter Warwickshire. And the first place I think you get to is Henley and Arden. If it's not, there's a village between here and there. Henley's a nice place, by the way, but that's for another time. We've turned right anyway onto Spring Lane now, and we're heading up towards the church and another religious building. There are 2 religious buildings of interest down here. The church is just one of them.
St Thomas's Church stands on Nuthurst Road and has been part of the village since 1879. It was designed by John Cotton, a Birmingham architect who worked in the early English style. The church was built with polychromatic brickwork, using red and yellow bricks to create strong colour bands. The style was popular in the late 19th century and can still be seen clearly on the outside walls. The building has a nave, a chancel, a south porch, and a north-east steeple with a yellow brick spire. The spire is one of the easiest parts of the church to spot from the road. The church was added to the National Heritage List for England in 1972, when it was given Grade 2 listed status. The brickwork and its tall spire are key reasons for its importance. A small update to the listing was made in 2016. St Thomas's Church forms part of the Diocese of Birmingham. It serves the parish of Nuthurst-cum-Hockley Heath, which includes the main village and nearby rural areas. It continues to be a place where people gather, just as they have done since the late 19th century.
And then about a quarter of a mile up the road, you've got the other religious building, and to get there you've got to cross the road a few times because the footpath changes sides. But we are here. Here's the Baptist Church.
The other church in this part of the village belongs to the Baptists. Hockley Heath Baptist Church, though, is not the first one used by Baptists here. The earliest chapel opened in 1837, built on land given by E. Bolton King, a local member of Parliament. At that time, people who were not part of the established church often met in their homes, so having a chapel was a big step. The chapel stood on what was then called Chapel Lane, which was later renamed Orchard Road. It was supported by churches in Solihull and Knowle, and reports from the 1860s and 1870s describe a good attendance. Today, they have this newer Baptist church, which was founded in 1877. Its first minister, Mr. Sear, became the recognised pastor for all nonconformists in the village. The building was once the church rooms for Umberslade Baptist Church. When the original Umberslade buildings were transferred to the Historic Chapels Trust in 1999, the congregation moved to Spring Lane and adopted the name Hockley Heath Baptist Church.
Okay, so once again, once you get beyond the Baptist Church, it's the end of the parish and the end of Solihull. So now we've turned around, we're heading back the other way. Now, the next thing to see is a pub called the Wharf Tavern. But on the way, on the corner opposite the King George Memorial Hall, there's a couple of businesses I want to highlight. And light is a good word because one of them is GBS Lighting, just here. And then if you walk past that, you have a little row of shops here. You've got a butcher's, Mills, and then a baker's, which is called Martin Bakers. And then beyond that, you have something called the Kitchen Gallery. The kitchen is a work of art, meet the masters. That's what it says on the wall there. And then beyond that, you have the canal, which of course is why the Wharf Tavern is so named. Here's the canal bridge, and hey presto, there's the canal.
Another pub now, in the form of the Wharf Tavern, right beside the Stratford Canal. The building dates from the mid-18th century, and it sits next to the spot where a busy wharf once worked, hence the name. From 1798 to 1816, the canal ended here, so boats had to unload and move goods by hand. The wharf stayed active for trade until 1929, and the short canal arm beside the pub is a reminder of that past. The pub has been visited by boaters for decades. In the mid-1980s, it was part of the chef and brewer chain, and even had a pink exterior for a time. By 1999, it had returned to a more traditional pub style. In 2014, the Wharf Tavern was restored with care, keeping its old look while improving the inside. Today, it offers up to 6 real ales, including Green King Abbot and Green King IPA. It also serves food every day and has a canal-side garden with tables that look out over the water. It runs darts nights, quiz nights, poker nights, and even a board game club. Bus routes S3 and X20 stop close by.
Opposite the Wharf Tavern, there's a car showroom, but it's not just your average car showroom, because here in Hockley Heath you can buy a McLaren, you can buy a Lotus, and you can buy a Rolls Royce if you have the money. They're all on sale in that building right there. Now, this next thing I maybe should have given to Amelia because it's a really interesting building. This branch of the co-op opened in February 2020 after the Heart of England Cooperative Society invested £2.1 million to turn a former swimming pool showroom into a new food store. It became the Society's 35th food store and was at the time its largest investment in a convenience site. The opening created 12 new jobs. The shop serves people travelling through the village as well as those living nearby. The building that now holds the co-op was for decades the home of GVS Swimming Pool Supplies, a specialist swimming pool and spa equipment business. The company was a traditional family firm, first established in 1956, and supplied parts and equipment for domestic and commercial pools. Let's talk schools next. The old school at Hockley Heath appears in official records held by the National Archives. One file, dated 1908 to 1913, lists it under the Ministry of Education's public elementary school records. The building itself is this. The school would have served children living in the village and nearby places such as Nuthurst and Ilshaw Heath. The road through Hockley Heath was already an important route when it arrived, so a school here made sense for families in the area. Nowadays, there's a newer school in Hockley Heath. It goes by the name of Tudor Grange Primary Academy, and it's further up School Road. This has been an academy since the 1st of August 2012. It became part of the Tudor Grange Academies Trust, which runs schools across the Midlands. The trust is led by Claire McLean, with a board chaired by Peter Rock, and the school also has an executive principal, Sarah Deakin. The school's own principal is Louise Porter. The school teaches children aged 2 to 11 and includes nursery classes. It has space for 252 pupils, and recent records list 218 pupils on roll. It has no recorded religious ethos. In March 2024, Ofsted confirmed that the school continues to be rated good. Inspectors also said pupils speak highly of their teachers here. Earlier, we learned about the former Congregational Chapel, which opened in 1837, the one that was built on a piece of freehold land given by Mr. E. Bolton King. Here, we're at the site of that building on Chapel Lane, which has since been renamed Orchard Road. A congregational supporter in Birmingham gave £100 towards the building costs, and the rest was raised through a public appeal. As numbers fell, the remaining congregational members eventually joined the Baptists. Their old chapel was then used by the Baptists for midweek activities until the early 1930s, after which it fell into a poor condition and was demolished in 1998. This is what we find on the site now, Orchard House. If you need petrol here in Hockley Heath, don't be fooled by this. There's an old petrol station on the corner. I don't think that's in use anymore. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? It's all abandoned, but the pumps are still in place though. I wonder what the price of petrol and diesel was when this shut its doors. Anyone know? Let me know in the comments down below if you do. So in summary, Hockley Heath sits on the old route between Birmingham and Stratford, a place that began as rough ground in an oak clearing. The land here once belonged to Mercian kings, and the Domesday Book still pictured it as deep woodland rather than a village. From this quiet patch of countryside came Sir William Trussell, the man who stood before Parliament in 1327 and spoke the words that ended Edward II's reign. His link gives the village one of the most dramatic footnotes in medieval politics. The canal is the thread that ties the place together, cut as it was in the 1700s, and even though the village has grown since it came along, it still feels rural. It's a village that looks ordinary at first, but once you start digging, it's full of surprises.
I walk through halls where power once stood tall, called by a realm that feared a deeper fall. Years of unrest had carved a heavy path, and now I spoke with measured, steady wrath. A voice shaped far beyond Hockley Heath's green, set firm against the weight of what had been. The throne lay still, its splendor drained away, a fading crown with nothing left to say. Silence pressed hard against the gilded floor, as if it knew it ruled these halls no more. The air grew colder around the crown, a rain once proud, now slipping slowly down. So I raised the words the realm had asked me for, a final seal upon a troubled score. No turning back, once spoken in that hall, a single voice delivering it all. The realm stood poised between the dusk and dawn, awaiting news that one age now was gone. Exile had shaped the steel within my mind. I'd seen the cost when rule grows harsh and blind. Now summoned back, I carried out the call, a task that weighed like winter on us all. Yet still I stood, determined, calm and clear, and spoke the lines the realm required to hear. The throne remained, but power's pulse had died. Its golden frame no longer matched its pride. No voice replied, no challenge met my claim. Just fading grandeur, stripped of former flame. A reign once fierce, now drifted out of sight. Its final spark surrendered without fight. So I raised the words the realm had asked me for, a final seal upon a troubled score. No turning back, once spoken in that hall, a single voice delivering it all. The realm stood poised between the dusk and dawn, awaiting news that one age now was gone. Through years of strife I'd carried truth like stone, and now that truth stood firm beside the throne. No bard could soften what the realm had faced, no scribe could hide how far the crown misplaced. Yet still I spoke as duty held me fast, and closed the door upon a broken past. So I raised the words the realm had asked me for, a final seal upon a troubled score. No turning back, once spoken in that hall, a single voice delivering it all. The realm stood poised between the dusk and dawn, awaiting news that one age now was gone. So let the tale of Trusselstan be sung, a moment carved when old rule came undone. His voice declared what others dared not say, and set the realm upon a different way. A single act that shaped the path ahead, spoken where the past and future spread.
Hello folks, welcome back to Solihull once again. Now I'm standing on a bridge in the beginning of this episode. You can see we've got a watercourse underneath our feet. Now this is a river we've mentioned a couple of times this week so far, but this I believe is the first time we've actually seen it. That is the beautiful River Blythe, and doesn't it look rather calm and peaceful this morning? In fact, the only thing that's breaking the peace is the sound of the M42, which is in the background. We'll be seeing that later probably, I would have thought. But it's the Blythe that we're focusing on mostly today. Now this river runs through this parish, and it sort of skirts the edge of a very nice village where a famous footballer used to live. Welcome to Barston. Barston, Beanston's farm. Lastly this week we come to Barston, which sits in the green belt east of Solihull, wrapped in a great loop of the River Blythe at the western edge of the Meriden Gap. It's a small rural parish with a conservation area at its heart and within easy reach of Birmingham and Coventry. The name appears in early records as Birkston, Burtonstone and Burstanton. Scholars link it to the personal name Beanston, who was probably an early landholder. Later writers also connect Barston with the Barton surname, which is well rooted in this old Warwickshire landscape. In Saxon times, Barston's territory was wider, taking in much of what later became Berkswell, set within the old Forest of Arden. The River Blythe and its tributaries gave water meadows and pasture, so farming shaped daily life long before written records fixed this place on paper. Barston was firmly on the map in the Domesday Book. It was in the hundred of Coleshill and had about 38 households, with villages, woodland and at least one mill. Lords included Thorkill of Warwick, Robert D'Oyley and Robert the Bursar. Barton's manor passed through powerful hands. One estate gave way to the Knights Templar, linked to nearby Temple Balsall, then to the Knights Hospitaller after the Templars were suppressed. Under Henry VIII, the land went to Catherine Parr, then to families such as the Fishers of Escott. The parish is best known today for St Swithin's Church, standing on high ground above the Blythe. A medieval chapel burned down in 1721, and the present brick church rose soon after as a replacement, later gaining Victorian Gothic details. Barston Hall is the 18th century vicarage, and the Bull's Head with its older rear range is the local pub. Further out lie the Malt Shovel, the Barston Memorial Institute, Barston Lakes and a 15th century pack horse bridge. People have left their mark here as much as buildings have. The Fisher family funded church work and appear on its bells and memorials. More recently, the footballer Robbie Keane lived in Barston whilst at Coventry City. Now supposedly there's an underground passage linking St Swithin's Church to the Templar site at Temple Balsall. It's said to run beneath the Blythe, though historians doubt it. Even so, it's a really interesting bit of folklore which I'd love to try and prove. Walking Barston's lanes today, you can still sense the past. Old fields, medieval orders and Georgian brickwork sit side by side in this quiet corner of the West Midlands, once graced by a famous footballer. Let's have a look at it.
Amelia's Features.
Hey everybody, I've got some great stuff to be the voice of today. I'll be covering the Bull's Head pub, the church, Barston Hall, and the Memorial Hall. Plus, I'll also tell you a bit about the footballer, Robbie Keane.
Barston can be split into two areas. You have the village itself, but there's also Eastcote, which is pronounced by the locals as Escott. It sits on the northwest end of a sand and gravel ridge, about 1 mile northwest of St Swithin's Church in Barston itself. The name appears in records linked to the Fisher family, who held land here from the time of Catherine Parr in the 1500s until the 1800s. The most important place in Eastcote is Eastcote Hall, a Grade 2 listed building. Okay, so we have made it to Eastcote, and we're now on top of the River Blythe, which we saw at the beginning of this episode. And like I said at the top of this video, it does look rather calm this morning. It should do, considering it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, right next to the Blythe is Eastcote's biggest and probably best known building. It's behind those hedges and trees. It's Eastcote Hall. So here is the hall. Parts of it date from the 15th century, including a 2-bay hall with an open timber roof. The building has close-set timber framing with white plaster panels and later brickwork. It was first listed in 1952 for its historic value. Next to the hall is a moated site, protected as a scheduled monument. The moat is almost square, about 60 metres by 50, with water on all 4 sides. The moat is thought to be spring-fed. The island inside is around 40 metres across and holds the house and gardens. A capped well stands near the southwest corner. A long and narrow fish pond lies to the west, fed by water from the moat and close to the River Blythe. These features make Eastcote Hall one of the oldest and most interesting spots in Barston Parish. In the middle of Eastcote, there's the Daleswood Health Centre. This occupies Barn House on Barston Lane and runs as a private GP practice set up by 2 local doctors with long NHS experience, Dr Alison Denton and Dr Oliver Denton, who each have over 20 years of work behind them. The practice is listed by the Care Quality Commission as an independent doctor's service. It offers general practice, physiotherapy, podiatry, mental health support, child psychology and blood tests. It also runs extra services such as chiropody and lifestyle consultations. There are 2 pubs in this one. Here we have the Malt Shovel on Barston Lane. It's one of the best known places to eat in the parish. It holds 2 AA Rosette Awards, and in 2025 it won Gastropub of the Year at the Food Awards England. The building includes a converted barn now used as a dining room. It has wood beams, pastel colours and space for up to 45 diners. The main bar has a log fire and the garden is used for eating outside in the warmer months. The Malt Shovel is also known for its fresh local produce, with food cooked to order. A fish specials board is updated each day and the menu changes with the season. TripAdvisor lists the pub with a rating of 4.4 and a Traveller's Choice 2025 award. Just before we get into the village, we have a ford to see, and for the first time this week we get to see the River Blythe. The ford is a beauty spot recorded in photographs and mapping for more than a decade. The place is still known as the ford, even though the river now runs through a culvert under the road rather than across the surface. A raised walkway and a small footbridge stand beside it, and these were built because the area floods during wet weather. The ford is known as a stopping point on a 3.5 mile route between Knowle and Barston. It's usually dry. Even though the road no longer dips through the water, the raised walkway and the flood marks in the area show how the river behaves after heavy rain. You know, on Google Maps this is marked as Barston Ford, and it's got that little purple symbol on it with the camera. That usually means it's a good photo opportunity. I agree. I think this is an absolute beauty of a spot. It's one of those places that certainly deserves to be photographed, and so I've captured it here on TVI. Now, from this ford, we're going to make our way now into Barston village. We've sort of already been driving through it, passing through the Malt Shovel and Daleswood Health Centre and that kind of thing, but we haven't actually had a walk around yet because it's been a bit too sparse, a bit too sort of strung out for me to do that. Well, in the middle of Barston, there are a few other decent landmarks which we can capture on a walk. So let's make our way from this ford to there. Okay, so we've driven through Barston there, and I've parked at Barston Hall, which will actually be our finishing point in the village. I've walked all the way back up to the other end of the village, and we're going to make our way from where I'm standing right now in this bus shelter down to Barston Hall again. Now, this bus shelter is used as a book exchange. As you can see, we've got a little library here in the shelter, and there's also a little notice here that says something about the Barston United Charities. Through an ancient and long-standing charitable donation to the village, funds are available for the elderly and children of the parish of Barston. There you go, and the details for that are underneath. Now, just outside the shelter, we've got a post box and a phone box, which is empty these days, nothing in it. And our first task is to make our way to the Bull's Head, which is the pub just down there.
The Bull's Head in Barston is one of the oldest buildings in the parish, with records stating that it dates from the 17th century. It began life as a coaching inn, which is a bit weird given we're in the middle of nowhere out here. The main structure is at the front, and there's a long barn behind it. The barn has been part of the site for a long time, and was recently found to have serious structural problems. A planning report explained that a truss had slipped from its bearing point, and the walls were moving. Resultingly, the barn had to be held up with scaffold. Because of this, the owners applied for listed building consent, which was granted in March this year, allowing the barn to be repaired and turned into a new restaurant space. Historic England raised no objections to the plan. Today, the Bull's Head is known for food. Its Sunday dinners are heavily praised on review sites, and the pub holds a 4.2 rating on TripAdvisor. The building keeps a late 16th century style inside, with a warm dining room and a full bar that serves craft ale.
Just over the road from the Bull's Head, we have a memorial hall, which is next to a pair of houses which look really, really nice to me. Check these two out.
Barston Memorial Hall stands in the centre of the village, close to the Bull's Head. The building began life in the late 1600s as a malt house and a brew house, long before it became the hall people know today. In 1920, the land and the building were bought for the village, and the inside was changed to form the layout still used now. Before that change, it was known as the reading room. Later, a kitchen and toilets were added to support events and regular use. Inside the entrance is a plaque with 74 names. They are the Barston villagers who served in the Great War, which is why the building is now the Memorial Institute. The hall is run as a trust, with a trust deed dated 1937. It was officially registered with the Charity Commission in 1955. The hall is hired for children's parties, craft fairs, coffee mornings, and company training days. The running costs are about £3,500 a year, and repairs are supported by grants, donations, and help from the Friends of the Institute.
So far, when we've walked from the bus shelter, it's been fairly flat. Well, let me tell you that walking up from Barston Hall, it's definitely not flat. There's a hill involved. And where the hill starts to go back down, on the right-hand side, you have Barston's Church, which is sort of hiding behind those trees over there. We're going to take ourselves into that next. Now, apparently, there's a secret tunnel that runs underneath the church and goes out towards Temple Balsall. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know.
St Swithin's Church is a Grade II listed building. The church we see today was built between 1721 and 1727, after an older chapel on the same site was burnt down in 1721. Records explain that worship on this spot goes back to about the 11th century. In those times, Barston was linked with Berkswell. For a long time, the chapel here was served by a curate, licensed to Berkswell cum Barston. Not much is known about the old chapel other than its eventual fate, but we know lots about this church. It was first built in a Georgian style, and parts of that design still survive. The round-headed windows from 1721 remain in the tower and in parts of the nave. The building is made of red brick with stone dressings, and the west tower has a tall brick parapet that rises above the rest of the church. In the late 1890s, the church was altered with Gothic work, and at the same time the vestry and the north porch were added. These changes were finished by 1900. One of the most interesting features of St Swithin's is its peal of 6 bells. 5 of them were restored in 1960. People in Barston like to tell a tale about a secret tunnel from the church to Temple Balsall that runs under the Blythe. It sounds fun, but real records say it almost certainly never existed. The tale survives because both places were linked to the Knights Templar.
Okay, so after the church, it's mainly housing for a bit on both sides of the road, but you see there's more housing on the right than there is on the left, because on the left it's generally speaking hidden behind trees and whatnot. So we'll just follow this for a way. The ground is again sloping downhill, and at the bottom of the hill it sort of dissipates out to nothing, this sort of civilization, until you reach Barston Hall, which is about I don't know, a couple of 100 yards after the end of the village, and that's our next thing to see.
Barston Hall is one of the most important historic buildings in the village. It was built during a period when several large houses were rising across the area. The hall is made of red brick, and it has a hipped old tiled roof that gives the building its tall, square outline. The front of the building has a 3-storey main block with sash windows set under stucco-faced lintels. A 1-window wing stands on the left side. The entrance is reached by 3 stone steps, leading to a 4-panel door with an oblong fanlight above it. The doorway is framed by Doric pilasters, which support a small pediment. These details match the architectural style of the early 19th century and help explain why the building is now listed. This served as the vicarage for a long time. The land around Barston was held by the Knights Templar in the 13th century, then passed to the Knights Hospitaller after the Templar order was ended in 1312. Later, the land was taken by Henry VIII and granted to Catherine Parr. The Fisher family of Eastcote held part of the area until the 19th century. This is all relevant to the hall, because it's those shifts in ownership that form the background to the construction of this impressive building.
And then opposite Barston Hall, there's a little pond. I'm not sure if this is a public access kind of pond. I think it's private, to be honest with you. So I'm not going to go anywhere sort of close to it. There it is. But if it's water features you want, then you need to be at our last landmark here in Barston Parish. If you head this way and sort of north, you're heading towards the lakes at Barston, which is also a golf club. Let's check that out to finish.
Our last stop in this tour of Barston is the West Midlands Golf Course and Barston Lakes, which sit together on land that was once used for sand and gravel extraction. When the quarrying here stopped, the ground was restored. That work created a large water body, now known as Barston Lake. The lake covers 21 acres and has 125 pegs, which makes it one of the biggest match fishing venues in the region. Carp here can reach 37 pounds, weight-wise. Beside the lake is the West Midlands Golf Club, which has a par 74 course. It includes 5 par 5 holes and the famous hole 8, known as the Devil, which measures 725 yards from the back tees. The final hole is an island green, inspired by a well-known hole at Sawgrass. The course drains quickly in heavy rain, so this one can stay open when other courses close. The site also includes the lake at Barston Restaurant, which can host things like wedding receptions. Today, the golf course and the lakes work side by side. One offers long fairways and tough holes, while the other offers calm water and strong fishing. Together, they form one of the most active outdoor sites in the West Midlands. Before we wrap this one up, let's talk a bit about Barston's most famous former resident, Robbie Keane. He joined Coventry City in August 1999, when he was only 19, and Barston quickly became his home. Coventry paid £6 million for him, which was a record fee for a teenager at the time. He made an instant impact. On his very first match, he scored 2 goals against Derby County, a moment that made Coventry fans take notice straight away. Keane played in a strong attacking side that included Gary McAllister, Mustafa Hadji and Youssef Chipo. Together, they played fast, exciting football. One of his most famous moments came on Boxing Day, when Coventry beat Arsenal 3-2. His time at Coventry lasted only 1 season, but it was a season that left a mark. His performances were so strong that Inter Milan made a huge offer for him in July of 2000. Coventry accepted the £13 million bid, more than doubling the fee they had paid the year before. Fans still remember him as one of the most exciting young players to wear the sky blue shirt. His pace, skill, and confidence made him a favourite, and he was later voted one of the top players of Coventry's top flight era. Now, he's retired from playing, but he still has a role in football. Keane is the head coach of Ferencváros. He remains the most capped player in Ireland's history, but for Coventry fans, his single season in the Midlands is still seen as something special.
Barston sits in a quiet loop of the River Blythe, but it has far more to it than just the river. There are landmarks that give Barston its character. The Bull's Head with its 17th century bones, the Memorial Hall that began life as a malt house, and Barston Hall with its tall red brick front. Out in Eastcote, the timber frame of the old hall and its moat reminds you how deep the history runs here. Even the ford and the raised walkway tell their own small story about the Blythe and its moods. And then there are the people, from the fishers who shaped the parish for centuries to Robbie Keane making headlines while living down these lanes. To finish with, here's a short song that highlights Keane's connection to the village, aided by some actual Coventry City supporters.
Robbie Keane with a striker's pride, Coventry City blue at his side, Barston City. pace. Barston sings his name so loud, keynote skill had sky blues proud. Lift that voice, make Barston proud. Sky blue roar from the village crowd. Let's all sing together, play up sky blues. Whilst we sing together, we will never lose. Tottenham or Chelsea.
Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.